The partnership between your conscious deliberation and unconscious processing can become collaborative rather than one-sided. While completely controlling unconscious processes isn't possible, nor would it be desirable, research reveals we can develop a relationship that gradually influences patterns operating beyond our awareness. This approach focuses on cultivation rather than domination. Working with something that exists outside conscious detection presents challenges. Yet neuroscience has identified several practical approaches that bridge these levels of mind, aligning unconscious processing more closely with conscious values and goals. Implementation intentions offer a powerful starting point through simple, if-then statements that create automatic response patterns. Unlike vague intentions, "I'll try to be more patient," these specify exactly when, where, and how you'll act. 1. Identify a specific trigger situation. When I check social media first thing in the morning. 2. Connect it to a concrete alternative behavior. I will instead drink a glass of water and meditate for 5 minutes. 3. Rehearse this connection mentally several times. For example, someone struggling with workplace stress might create, "When my email notification sounds, I will take one deep breath before checking it." Psychology professor Peter Gorwitz's research shows these concrete plans can increase success rates for behavior change by 200 to 300% because they operate where conscious planning meets unconscious execution. This approach works with rather than against the unconscious mind's associative architecture. A meta-analysis covering over 8,000 participants found significant effects across diverse behaviors from healthy eating to prejudice reduction. Once established, these connections begin operating automatically without requiring conscious monitoring. Metacognitive awareness serves as another essential technique. This practice begins with simple reflection. What am I feeling right now? Or, how might my current emotional state be influencing my perception? Psychologist Tosha Urich's research shows people who develop both internal self-awareness, understanding their own thoughts, and external self-awareness, recognizing how others perceive them, make better decisions and experience greater relationship satisfaction. This self-reflection pairs effectively with journaling. Researchers at UCLA found that writing about emotions affects different brain regions than merely thinking about them. Participants who journaled about difficult experiences for just 15 minutes over 4 consecutive days showed measurable improvements in both physical and psychological health. The process translates emotional experiences into language, integrating unconscious processes with conscious understanding. Take Emma, a marketing executive who struggled with anxiety before client presentations. By journaling about these experiences, she identified an unconscious pattern. Her anxiety peaked when she felt unprepared for potential objections. Using implementation intentions, she developed a new response. When I notice tightness in my chest before presentations, I will pause and ask myself what specific objection concerns me most, then prepare a thoughtful response. Within weeks, both her anxiety and presentation effectiveness improved significantly. This gradual reprogramming leverages neuroplasticity, your brain's lifelong ability to rewire itself. The process works through what neuroscientists call self-directed neuroplasticity, where conscious attention influences which neural networks strengthen over time. Every deliberate practice of a new response to an old trigger reshapes your brain's physical structure. Mindfulness meditation enhances this capacity. A Harvard study found that 8 weeks of mindfulness practice produced measurable changes in brain regions associated with memory, self-awareness, and emotional regulation. Participants showed increased gray matter density in the hippocampus and decreased density in the amygdala, creating a space between stimulus and response where new choices become possible. The practice of kindness can similarly rewire unconscious social judgments. Barbara Fredrickson's research demonstrates that cultivating compassion broadens perception and counteracts implicit biases. Her broaden and build theory shows positive emotions expand awareness and build psychological resources that persist beyond the emotional state itself. Silently wishing well for strangers during daily activities has been shown to reduce implicit bias in as little as 2 weeks. These approaches share an indirect nature. Direct commands to your unconscious mind typically intensify rather than alleviate unwanted patterns. The effective approach resembles diplomatic negotiation rather than control. As psychologist Stephen Hayes explains, accepting difficult experiences while taking meaningful action aligned with personal values leads to greater psychological flexibility than attempting to eliminate uncomfortable thoughts. This process resembles gardening more than programming. You create conditions for certain patterns to flourish, while others naturally diminish. Neuroscientist Rick Hanson describes this as taking in the good. Intentionally focusing on positive experiences for 15 to 30 seconds allows them to transfer from awareness into neural structure, counterbalancing the brain's negativity bias. The integration of these practices produces gradual recalibration of your unconscious operating system. Unlike software updates that install quickly, this process unfolds over months as new neural pathways form. Changes appear first in subtle shifts, noticing habitual reactions before acting, finding yourself drawn to healthier choices, or responding differently in situations that once triggered automatic stress. What makes this work valuable is the fundamental shift in your relationship with yourself. As unconscious patterns become more accessible to awareness, the division between conscious me and unconscious forces begins to dissolve. You experience yourself as an the philosophical frontier. The boundaries between conscious choice and unconscious influence blur as we unravel the philosophy behind our mental operating system. What if the sense of control you experience over your decisions is merely an illusion? A story your brain constructs after your unconscious has already determined your course of action. The emerging science of unconscious processing fundamentally reshapes what it means to be you. When philosophers throughout history contemplated the nature of free will, they couldn't have anticipated how modern neuroscience would transform these ancient questions. Like ancient wisdom meeting modern software upgrades, today's brain research has revolutionized our understanding of human agency. As philosopher Patricia Churchland notes, the more we understand about the brain, the more we realize that freedom is not about the absence of causation, but about the right kinds of causes operating within us. This insight prompts us to ask, what kind of freedom is actually possible for beings like us? This perspective invites a more nuanced understanding of freedom. Rather than seeing free will as an absolute power operating independently of natural causation, we might view it as existing on a spectrum. Your decisions emerge from the complex interplay between conscious deliberation and unconscious processes, neither completely determined nor completely free in the traditional sense. The philosophical landscape offers three primary viewpoints on this question. Compatibilism, championed by thinkers like Daniel Dennett, suggests that determinism and free will can coexist. Your choices can be causally determined, yet meaningfully yours, when they align with your authentic self. Hard determinism holds that all events, including human choices, are completely determined by prior causes. As neuroscientist Sam Harris puts it, free will is an illusion. Our wills are simply not of our own making. By contrast, libertarian free will theorists maintain that humans possess genuine agency transcending physical causation, pointing to quantum indeterminacy and emergent properties of consciousness as potential mechanisms for choice. This debate takes on profound implications when we consider moral responsibility. If unconscious processes largely determine behavior, can we hold people fully accountable for their actions? Research from the University of Minnesota found that participants who read passages emphasizing the deterministic nature of brain function were more likely to cheat on a subsequent task compared to those who read passages emphasizing agency and choice. Do our beliefs about free will, regardless of their metaphysical truth, serve important social functions by encouraging ethical behavior? The way we conceptualize these issues has real-world consequences for everything from criminal justice to personal development. Does a deterministic view undermine personal responsibility, or does it call for a more compassionate understanding of human behavior that acknowledges the complex causal history behind each action? Remarkably, many contemplative traditions anticipated these philosophical quandaries thousands of years before modern neuroscience. Buddhist teachings on non-self, anatta, propose that our sense of being a unified, autonomous self is fundamentally misleading. As Zen teacher Shunryu Suzuki observed, the awareness of our own mind is not our mind itself. It is just an image of our mind, but we attach to the image and think it is the same as our mind itself. Does this ancient insight prepare us to better accept what neuroscience now reveals? Similarly, aspects of Hindu philosophy, particularly in the Advaita Vedanta tradition, suggest that individual agency, ahamkara, is ultimately an illusion overlaid upon a deeper reality. These traditions offer contemplative practices designed to reveal the constructed nature of the self through direct experience rather than intellectual analysis. Your mind functions somewhere on a spectrum between totalitarian dictatorship and participatory democracy. In a dictatorship model, conscious awareness merely announces decisions already made by unseen powers, creating an illusion of choice while rationalizing predetermined outcomes. A democratic model suggests a more complex relationship where conscious awareness participates meaningfully in decision-making while drawing on unconscious processes for essential information. The truth likely lies between these extremes, an evolving collaboration between different aspects of your mental architecture. Your conscious self might have veto power rather than initiating power, capable of overriding certain unconscious impulses, but not generating choices independently of unconscious processes. These insights extend beyond free will to questions of personal identity. If most of your mental activity occurs outside awareness, what does this mean for how you understand yourself? The narrative you construct about who you are may be largely confabulation, a story created to explain behaviors whose true causes remain hidden from you. Yet this doesn't mean the narrative is meaningless. Philosopher Mary Midgley suggests that narrative explanations serve different, but equally important functions in human life. You need both scientific understanding and meaningful narratives to navigate existence effectively. Perhaps most profoundly, these insights invite you to reconcile the objective view of brain function with the subjective experience of making choices. Philosopher Thomas Nagel famously argued that subjective experience contains elements that cannot be fully captured by objective physical descriptions, suggesting limits to a purely scientific account of consciousness. These questions shape how you understand your place in the world, your responsibilities to others, and your approach to personal development. A deterministic view might foster greater compassion by recognizing the complex causes behind harmful behaviors, while encouraging a strategic approach to self-improvement focused on creating environments that shape unconscious processes rather than relying on willpower alone. The integration imperative. Moving from philosophical debates to practical reality. Have you ever wondered why you keep repeating patterns you consciously want to break? The answer lies not in a failure of willpower, but in the profound disconnection between what your conscious mind knows and what your unconscious mind believes. A gap that, when bridged, could transform your entire experience of being human. This disconnection manifests in countless ways in our daily lives. Consider the person who intellectually understands they deserve love, yet sabotages every promising relationship, or the professional who consciously desires success, but undermines opportunities at critical moments through self-sabotage. These aren't character flaws. They're symptoms of internal fragmentation, where conscious intentions and unconscious programming work at cross-purposes. Psychologist Carl Jung called this phenomenon psychic splitting, describing it as a state where aspects of ourselves remain separated from conscious awareness, creating internal conflicts that manifest as psychological distress. Modern researchers have validated Jung's insights, showing that many psychological disorders stem from this disconnection. Trauma researcher Bessel van der Kolk explains, "The body keeps the score. The physical effects of psychological trauma often manifest as seemingly inexplicable symptoms when the original experiences remain unintegrated." Take Sarah, a talented writer who repeatedly abandons projects just before completion. Despite her conscious desire for creative fulfillment, an unconscious belief formed in childhood that success brings unwanted attention and criticism drives her to protect herself through abandonment. Only when she recognized this pattern and began working with her unconscious protective mechanisms did she finally complete her first novel, integrating her desire for creative expression with her need for emotional safety. This disconnection creates what neuroscientist Stephen Porges terms neuroception, unconscious threat detection that can become chronically activated. When these systems misfire due to unintegrated experiences, we find ourselves in constant fight-or-flight mode, experiencing anxiety or irritability without understanding why. The rational mind says we're safe, but unconscious processes continue responding as if we're in danger. Clinical psychologist Marsha Linehan observed that logical understanding alone rarely leads to psychological change. Emotional learning must occur at deeper levels. She noted, people with overwhelming emotions are often told to use reason, but this advice assumes these systems are already integrated. Most psychological suffering occurs precisely because they aren't. Relationship researcher John Gottman's studies reveal that 69% of recurring relationship conflicts stem from unintegrated emotional material rather than surface issues. When unconscious triggers activate old wounds, partners react to historical pain rather than present circumstances, creating cycles of misunderstanding that can last decades. The promising news is that integration creates measurable changes in neural pathways associated with emotional regulation. Research by Richard Lane demonstrates that participants who developed awareness of previously unconscious emotional responses showed significant reductions in anxiety and depression compared to control groups. Among effective approaches to integration, internal family systems therapy offers a particularly powerful framework. Developed by Richard Schwartz, IFS recognizes psychological symptoms as protective adaptations, parts of ourselves trying to manage overwhelming experiences. Schwartz explains, by approaching these parts with curiosity rather than judgment, we can help them update their strategies and integrate their wisdom into our conscious awareness. While many therapeutic traditions offer paths to integration, from psychoanalysis to cognitive behavioral therapy to somatic approaches, they share a common understanding that healing occurs through relationship with previously disconnected aspects of ourselves. Pat Ogden, developer of sensorimotor psychotherapy, notes, the body is the primary canvas on which traumatic experience is painted. Integration requires working with these physical patterns, not just cognitive understanding. Jung's concept of shadow work, facing disowned aspects of ourselves, represents another path to integration. By consciously exploring aspects of ourselves we've rejected or denied, we reclaim vital energy and wisdom previously lost to us. Mindfulness practices serve integration purposes by creating space to notice unconscious patterns as they arise. Jon Kabat-Zinn describes mindfulness as paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. This quality of attention allows us to respond differently rather than reacting automatically to triggering situations. What these diverse approaches share is a central premise. Psychological wholeness comes from bringing all parts of ourselves into relationship with conscious awareness. Integration doesn't mean achieving perfect internal harmony. Rather, it means developing the capacity to hold all aspects of your experience in awareness, even when they seem contradictory or uncomfortable. The neuroscience confirms why this matters. Interpersonal neurobiologist Dan Siegel explains that integration, connecting differentiated parts of the brain and mind, is the biological basis of well-being. The absence of integration leads to chaos or rigidity, the hallmarks of most mental suffering. When we facilitate integration, we create the conditions for natural healing. This perspective shifts how we understand personal development. Instead of focusing primarily on achievement or positive thinking, integration invites us to expand our capacity to be with all aspects of our experience. Paradoxically, by turning toward our fragmented parts rather than trying to transcend them, we discover a more authentic wholeness. The benefits extend beyond symptom reduction. People who engage in integration practices report greater creativity, more fulfilling relationships, and an expanded sense of possibility. By accessing previously unconscious resources, they find themselves making choices aligned with deeper values rather than reactive patterns. What appears as transformation is actually a return to our natural state of wholeness that was fragmented by difficult experiences. We've come to the end of our journey through the hidden landscape of your mind. What began as an exploration of brain functions has revealed something far more profound: the very foundation of your identity and reality itself. This invisible operating system creates the world you inhabit. The power lies in transforming your relationship with yourself. Each moment reveals your unconscious mind at work. That intuition, judgment, or emotional reaction offers glimpses into your deeper self. By noticing these moments, you create space between stimulus and response. This is true freedom. The path forward is collaboration, not control.